Hi there. Happy Valentine's Day, all. I'm going to give you a little treat today to celebrate Valentine's Day. I'm going to read a couple of selections from my new poetry book, Greenwood Fires, recently released by Mulberry Books. Going to talk about it a little bit and like I said, read a couple of selections, and I hope you enjoy. The first thing I'm going to do is read from the press release of this book. Mulberry Books is pleased to present Greenwood Fires, a poetry collection by multi-award-winning, multi-genre Newfoundland author Geraldine Ryan Lush. The author of fiction, non-fiction, children's and young adult works, and poetry in all its forms, Ryan Lush here returns to the form she caught her writing chops on. Having spent her formative years in a small rural village on the Evelyn Peninsula of Newfoundland, devoid of electricity, paved roads, and even a library, the social emptiness became a vehicle for acute observation, which, once seeded, only grew to a perception of amazing magnitude. The titles in this collection, although eclectic, retain gutsy elements, among them the macabre and mysterious, indeed a creepy veil, as evidenced in the entries Fright and The Passport. No surprise her paranormal novels are such a success, with images like the following still clinging to her brain. It wasn't enough to drive This is an excerpt from that particular poem. It wasn't enough to drive children home with fear of fairies dragging them away and putting an ugly child in their place. There was the thing in the stable that lurked in the rotting door on a dark fall night, when the fog was creeping in cave-like closeness, and you knew the thing was waiting there. End of excerpt. The isolation and sensory deprivation of growing in a barren landscape is shown in Cream Crackered, a poem showcasing not the cruelty of making fun of an old woman on Halloween, but the sheer desperation of what the environment she lived in had to offer up to deliver fun amidst a sparse existence. Excerpt. All gone now, just gave away the last one. We would mock all the way up the moon-danced road, screeching and shrieking in wild wolfy cries, like demons enjoying the devil's laughter, bending down in gales of hysteria as the wind almost took us and landed us over the cliffs and into the sea, dragging it out, making it last until Christmas, when the boozers hit and we could sing Star of Logie Bay for the $50 silver piece. And I had to stop for a second because I got to make sure the camera is still on. Okay, just had to make sure here. Something was happening with the light, so I had to check it. Sorry about that. Poems like Over There and All That Remains deal with growing up around hordes of uncles and relatives who saw action overseas in both world wars. Conversely, Before the Lights Came, paint an almost ecstatic picture of the hardships rendered in magic of living in a world of blackness. The author takes aim at cowardly teachers and money-grubbing priests in Gloves, in the poem Gloves, and the poem The Time, and doesn't shy away from the upsetting experience of young studs raging hormones in the poem First Crush, nor the lawsuits she would bring on if their coffee at Tim's was boiling in the poem Coffee Shop Blues. There is a dancing joy among the barons in the visiting dude from the US base in Argentia in the poem Kitchen Bojangles, and a tendency towards dark introspection in Once to Orchids, and in the poem Once to Orchids, and the poem The Drive-By. As with her many books over the past 3 decades, there is something for everyone, presented in her trademark natural imagery and unadorned language, rich in its simplicity. In Greenwood Fires, in a manner, the author comes full circle. The collection is elegiac, part memoir in free verse, part a poetic take on modern society, rife with arresting observation, painting a picture of influences past and present, naked, bold, and skeletal, from the battery radio on a shelf to stick fences to hillbilly Shakespeare's and 1940s torch songs to coffee shop blues and worrying about retirement. In the words of her poem News, the work is a chastising liquid of bark-like strength, enduring and palpable. End of the press release for my book, Greenwood Fires. So, at this point, I shall actually read a couple of poems from those excerpts for a treat for Valentine's Day and celebrate Valentine's Day. And I thought I had marked off Kitchen Bojangles here because that's one of my favorites actually. And I'll have to get it. Let's see, Kitchen Bojangles. Let's see, maybe I have it marked off already. 71. Okay, no, 71. Oh, 72. Okay. Okay, this is the poem in its entirety. Kitchen Bojangles. I'm pretty sure I talked about in other videos, etc., and other interviews and videos and so on. I was born and raised in a village, really. It was a village at that time, anyway. In St. Joseph, St. Mary's Bay, Newfoundland, and there was no electricity, no paved roads, no library. We were, at that time, I guess the distance was roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours away to the nearest town, which was the city of St. John's, Newfoundland. So, it was rather isolated and rather, like is pointed out in the press sheet there, it was, you were deprived in many ways. You were essentially deprived of so many things. There was joy, yes, there was joy. I have to say that there was joy in my bringing up in those years, and I credit the joy mostly to my family that raised me, my family and my extended family. Without such a family that I had, I think it would have been a difficult place to grow up in, but my family had a lot to give in many ways, their humor and their just their whole selves. It was amazing. So that kind of tempers what we didn't have in the way of amenities and pleasures and so on, that kids that grew up in other areas took for granted. The TV, the snack bars, the hangouts, the places to go, the roller skating, the ice rinks, the libraries. We didn't have any of that. We had none of that. So, but we survived and we did well. Like I said, thanks to the personal side of my upbringing, which was my family. I credit them for making my upbringing a happy one, a very happy one. Sometimes there was lots of joy, but of course, like any child, you would like to experience certain things, and you would have a longing for this, that, and the other thing that other people had that came from bigger places and so on, that you only read about in books, because that's the only way we could read about people who lived in other places, other more advanced places, different environments and so on. We only could read about it in books, so and you would get the kind of longing for, oh my, I wish I could experience that, but it was tempered by the little things, and little things were big things to us as children, and so one of the delights that we had was when people visited and so on, and This poem, Kitchen Bojangles, is centered around that. Somebody visiting the house as usual, for just a visit and a little bit of singing and maybe playing the harmonica or the mouth organ, as it's called then. Things like that, and the delight that it brought to children who, it was something that they look forward to, people visiting. So that was our social life. Kitchen Bojangles. Slicked down like a character from a silent film, hair plastered in Brylcreem and fragrant with Old Spice, he lounged languidly in layered vest and shirt and shoes so brown they mocked the multicolored diamonds of his socks as his trousered legs are crossed on the wooden chair, moving to the rhythm of the mouth organ while junks are dropping in the stove and the Salem cigarettes crunched in cut glass ashtray leave a pleasing menthol twang to turpentine tired nostrils of listeners on the woodbox. Just home from a week at the base in Argentia, his glittering wristwatch, gold tooth, and studded cufflinks, not to mention that spanking new packet of coasters, embossed with property of the United States of America, put stars in children's eyes who never saw a glint of Hollywood before. A dandy who dabbled as a dream reaper of 50s childhood. That one. And let's see. There's 53 poems in here, so it's rather difficult to select a few to read in an entry like this, but I'll do my best. Cream cracker. Now that's one of the ones that's mentioned in the press release because it actually illustrates just how sometimes we had to make our fun where we found it, kind of thing. And we used to visit this lady's house on Halloween, and we used to actually look forward to going to her house because we would laugh and everything afterwards at certain things. It wasn't meant to be cruel at all. It just illustrates how little the pleasures were, like I said, and we had to make our own fun. So it was just the way it was. It was a bare existence, So we had to do the best we could to enjoy ourselves. And there were two main events, or I should say three main events of the year in the little community. There was Christmas. There was Halloween. There was the annual garden party. And apart from that, there was the concerts, of course. That provided a bit of cultural outlet to us as well. We acted and sang, and there was a church choir and all that. But this kind of illustrates, just the lengths we would go to have some fun, We saved Mrs. Meg's house for last on All Hallows Eve in our Jimmy Durante rubber masks and the largest turnip in the cellar, spraying its acrid scent and glittery eyes like a tomcat on the prowl. We saved hers for last because our bags were full and we knew we'd get nothing at her door. We only went there for a laugh, to gape across the kitchen to the stove-blackened fry pan with a flattened cream cracker box top covering it. We only went to her house to see that cream crackered fry pan and to hear old Meg say, "All gone now, just gave away the last one," knowing full well she had never bought any in the first place. "All gone now, just gave away the last one," we would mock, all the way up the moon-danced road, screeching and shrieking in wild wolfy cries, like demons enjoying the devil's laughter. Bending down in gales of hysteria as the wind almost took us and landed us over the cliffs and into the sea, dragging it out, making it last until Christmas, when the boozers hit, and we could sing Star of Logie Bay for the $50 silver piece. So I'll read one more. Once two orchids. Once two orchids strong and proud lay buried under winter's shroud, until the sun, with warmth and love, perchance to smile from skies above. Excuse me for a second. The orchids, nurtured by the joy, grew radiant with each passing by, and blossomed with a brilliance bright, surpassing starlight in the night. Such happiness was never found beneath the cold and frozen ground. But then the sun, in angry might, kept back its warmth, withdrew its light, in stubborn pride refused to yield its healing power, or to wield a ray, a touch, an ear to hear one orchid's pleas, its falling tears. The orchid wilting didn't know what had angered the sun so. It lay in withered grief profound upon the cold and wind-swept ground. In vain tried to placate the sun, to listen, hear with anger done. The sun refused and hid behind the wintry, dark, foreboding blind. And so when spring's soft hands bestowed maternal bounty to the fold, when everything that lived came free to live and love in harmony, encountered not two flowers entwined, but twisted, battered, broken vines. Now, there's been some analysis of that poem done already on different sites and among different observers. So I'll leave you to draw your own interpretation of that particular entry. That's all I'm going. That's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed the entries I've read, and like I said, there's 53 poems in this book. And I don't think I mentioned in what era I grew up. I grew up in the early 50s and 60s. That was my time. Okay, so you want to know like which time frame in her life is she speaking of, or these poems are based on, or whatever. And as it says in the press release, they're a mixture of memoir and current contemporary society. And they're available, these books are available. See, they're available everywhere, on Amazon, Chapters, Barnes & Noble, Coles, all over the place, scores of sites online. So if you have a problem getting it, you can certainly contact me and get it from me, or my publisher, Mulberry Books. So it shouldn't be a problem if you have trouble finding a copy. And you can also, whichever city, county, state, province, territory, country you live in, you can certainly check out your libraries. A lot of libraries nationally and internationally have my books. I've written 19 books now. They're all in American, and quite a few of them are in a lot of libraries nationally and internationally. So you can certainly hit up your libraries wherever you live, wherever you may chance to live, and just sort of, ask about the book. And say, look, this would be a book that you could make sure you procure. So, because it's universally appealing, it's mostly set in Newfoundland, Labrador, Canada, but that's where it's thematically set, but it's of universal appeal. And, universal experiences, universal feelings and experiences, and sensory, whatever is inside your sensory brain and so on. You can probably identify with in your own life, something like that. So anyway, that's my second collection of poetry. I should say, I don't want to use the word adult poetry, but what I'm saying is where I've written a lot of children's literature. It's the first grown-up, or the second grown-up collection that I've written suitable for high school age, college, and from there on to age 100. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my presentation today, and I hope you have a very, very nice Valentine's Day. Thank you so very, very much for tuning in. See you again soon. Bye-bye.